Lesson 5, Attribution. Attribution solutions can help analysts piece together an assessment of marketing effectiveness. Importantly, a view across channels is the promise, which is something that is very important to advertisers. 5 things that are important for us to know. Assessing the effect of digital marketing programs across platforms has long challenged analysts and advertisers alike. Media mix models, MMMs, are a traditional approach to attribution that are today being complemented or in some cases even replaced by multi-touch attribution models, MTAs, using new digital data and collection methods. MMMs really do struggle with the nuances of digital advertising, but there are some ways that you can modernize those approaches to make them more effective at measuring digital. Recent privacy regulation and industry moves have forced MTAs to become even more reliant on modeled forecasts of consumer behavior as the data they can collect is dwindling and under further threat. And then finally, analysts can still make informed decisions based on available data, even if that data isn't as robust as it was previously. So we are looking at the 4 categories of measurement. We are focused on the 4th one, attribution. To discuss the topic of attribution, I want to start here with this cheery fellow named John Wanamaker. And what John Wanamaker famously said was that half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. And what John was really getting at is a challenge that has plagued advertising for years and years and years, and that is trying to answer the question, which of my channels is driving sales and which are not. And a traditional approach to doing this is something that we call a media mix model. And what an MMM does is it takes in a tremendous amount of data and attempts to tease out the marketing efforts that are actually driving those sales and those that are having less of an effect. And the MMM seeks to cut across all of the marketing that a brand is doing. It also then takes into effect all the seasonal influences, all the word of mouth, all the other things that might drive a consumer decision purchase. So you can imagine these models are large, they're complex, they're dealing with a tremendous amount of data. They were also born in a time when marketing was a little more straightforward. And if you looked at some of the traditional advertising channels of television, out-of-home, radio, really an MMM could normalize around a single consistent currency, which was an impression. Did someone see that ad? And the more people who saw an ad, the model could assume, the more impact it had on driving behavior. Now, as we move into a digital environment, that idea becomes a little more challenged. If you think about search, for instance, it's not as important that someone saw a search ad, right? This is an interactive channel that people are hopefully clicking on search ad links, and then now as a brand I have an opportunity to engage in a conversation with them. That's very different from an out-of-home billboard that I might see as I'm driving down the road, right? And so these approaches, these MMM models to account for digital advertising really do need to be modernized. But there are ways, certainly, to make them fit a little better to the realities of digital marketing. Multi-touch attribution models or attribution models take a little bit of a different view. Rather than taking the market view that an MMM would, these models seek to look at consumer-level data and assess what interactions consumers are having with brands and which ones are driving behavior or not on an aggregated basis. It's important to note that there are really 2 different kinds of attribution models. There are what we'd call a single media channel attribution model. So this is Facebook saying, I can attribute back on my Facebook platform the advertising that drove some kind of behavior. Google has its own, Amazon does, Twitter does as well. They measure that channel exclusively, right? Google's attribution models can tell you how to optimize your spend as a brand on Google. It's just not going to tell you much, actually nothing at all, about your spend on Facebook. Now, on the other side of the coin is what we'd call marketing attribution model. These are offered by big brands today, Neustar, Nielsen, on and on. What these models seek to do is look across all those different marketing platforms and make assessments of value. The challenge for these brands is that the data that they would have collected, or the methods that they would use to collect data as they try to map those consumer level journeys, is under threat. This is the same things that when we talked about the digital infrastructure challenges, because they're using cookies, they're using tags to collect that data. Those cookies and tags, through some of the privacy regulation, are what are being deleted. And as a result, these models wind up becoming even more reliant on probabilistic models to make estimates of how consumers are behaving.